How y'all doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Happy Saturday. As mentioned, my name is Echeverria, and I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm super excited to be here today with y'all. First of all, I'll give a big shout out to the MAX program and the committee who put to this conference. Y'all, let's give them a big round of applause. Also, let's say thank you to Ashley and Alan for connecting with me and giving me this opportunity to speak to you all about one of the things I'm most passionate about in the world, and that is youth organizing. And more specifically, the collective power of youth organizing. See, power is one of those things that it's often taken from us at a very young age. And we'll spend the rest of our lives trying to reclaim that power. Whether it be at school, the workplace, or even at home, we face a constant questioning of our competency, our discipline, and our experience. And it's important that we as young people learn how to organize to reclaim that power. You know, the classic example that folks like to give is the influence that our parents might want to have on our future careers, on the university we might attend, or the major that we'll pursue. Raise your hand if you can relate to that. Don't be shy, your parents aren't here. See, and my hope is that speaking to you all today, I can give you a bit more context than I had in high school. You know, in high school I didn't hear a lot about organizing. I heard the word advocacy and activism, community, but rarely was organizing ever mentioned. And I'm not someone that believes in coincidences, if I'm being quite honest. And I don't think it was a coincidence that it was when I moved to Louisville and started doing my organizing work that I started to feel that reclamation of power in my life. And something about power is that power and organizing go hand in hand. Seldom can you have one without the other. That is, with the exception of when you're born with the privilege of institutional power. But we as young people, as marginalized folks, aren't born with the privilege of institutional power. So it's essential that we learn to organize, to utilize the collective power of all of us to change our city, to change our state, and potentially change the world. So then I pose the question of what is youth organizing? And in my humble opinion, it's the intersectionality of three key components. The first being intentionality. The second being coalition community building. And the third is probably my favorite, which is that healthy level of stupid. And we'll get to that part, don't worry. But to start out, intentionality. So when my friends and I first started organizing back in 2018, when I was fresh to the city and new to campus, we had an opportunity to meet with one of the elders in the city. Someone who's been involved in Kentucky politics for many years and in the Louisville community for decades. And his first piece of advice that he gave to us was to keep one word at the front of our mind no matter the task. And that was intentionality. To be intentional. To be intentional with your time, your energy, your resources, and your spirit. But now 5 years later, I have more context and understand as an organizer, you must not only be intentional with your time and energy, but be intentional with other people's time, other people's energy, the community's resources. And an aspect of intentionality is how you treat people. You know, you can't treat people as a monolith. You can't treat black people as a monolith. You can't treat Latinx people as a monolith. You can't treat members of the LGBTQ plus community as a monolith. And you can't treat young people as a monolith. See, too often we speak about young people and students in the same aspect, in the same breath, without making a distinction. But in youth organizing, you must understand that not all young people are students. Not all students are necessarily young people. So when you're doing work and you're trying to be intentional and interacting with folks, you must be intentional with how you reach out to them. How are you making sure that you're reaching the young people in the community that aren't on campuses day in, day out? How are you getting resources to them? How are you ensuring that they're not being erased in the discussion of youth and young people in your community? So that's the first key component. And the second, coalition community building. And that's really what the core of what organizing is. So my first picture up here is a meme about food. And that's what community looks and feels like to me. You know, that's the first step of what you have to understand. In order to coalition community build, you have to understand what does that look like to you. And for me, food is quite literally one of those things that brings people to the table. You can get a lot accomplished by providing food to one another, by cooking for each other. On this next slide, you see pictures of my family. People that taught me what community should look and feel like. So when I was in high school, my senior year, I had an amazing opportunity, and that was to visit my family in Mexico, where my family is from, in Santa Cruz, Guerrero. It's a village of about 1,000 people. And not only was it an amazing opportunity for me to meet family members I'd never met before and visit my ancestral home, but it was an opportunity to see what community could look like. See, I went in December, and anyone who visits their family in Mexico in December knows that's when all the celebrations happen. The weddings, the quinceañeras, Christmas Eve, and in Santa Cruz, all those happen under the same roof. Every celebration, every quinceañera happens in the Zócalo, the community center, the cement basketball court with a canopy above it. And not only are they consistent in where those events are held, but they're consistent on who's invited. The entire village is invited. Because they treat their community members as a collective. They're intentional about the respect they have for each other as human beings, as their neighbors. So we live in a country that almost normalizes not knowing your neighbor. You might live next to someone for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and might know their name. Might exchange pleasantries when they're walking their dog down the street. But rarely will you actually understand their wants, their needs, their goals, aspirations, their morals. In order to become a good coalition builder, you must first become a great community builder. And that starts with getting to know your neighbor. Because as you understand your neighbor more, you'll understand that, yes, all your goals and morals aren't exactly aligned. But there is common ground. There's common ground on which you can build upon towards a more progressive future together. So that's the second key component. Now we're on the third, my favorite. You know, as a fellow young person, I'm only 22, not super old yet, I can appreciate that healthy level of stupid. And for this, I had to have a picture of myself. You know, I felt a little weird putting anyone else's picture up there without any context of what a healthy level of stupid is. But what it's really about is tapping into that inner child. See, it's that healthy level of stupid that pushes you to challenge the status quo, to believe in that project, even though maybe no one else does. See, it's that healthy level of stupid. It's actually something my dad spoke a lot to me about growing up. A little bit of context: my dad is a high school English teacher. He's a coach. He's coached everything from soccer to track and field to cross country to bowling to football. And as a coach's son, I had to play most of those sports. And something about me when I was younger, and still to this day, is I overthink a lot. I overanalyze. I'm always in my head. And as an athlete, we have any athletes in here? Any y'all athletes? So as an athlete, it's actually sometimes a detriment to think a little too much. Sometimes it's better to rely on the muscle memory, the instinct. So my dad had to remind me about that quite often. The healthy level of stupid is about being a little bold, a little naive, enough to believe in your dreams more than the experiences and the failures of those that have come before you. You know, some people might call it faith, some might call it confidence. But regardless of what you call it, you must learn how to summon it. Because we as young people, while we might not have the experiences of those twice or 3 times our age, we do have the experiences of now. And the experiences of now are going to be what solve the problems of today. So we have to learn to utilize the healthy level of stupid as a tool rather than as a detriment to our work. So we're told it's a detriment to our work most of our lives. It's the healthy level of stupid that pushed me to pursue a degree in political organization. And I actually started my college experience as a dual major in marketing and economics. See, I should have seen the faces of my parents when I told them I was dropping out those business degrees and pursuing a degree that no one's really ever heard of. Has anyone heard of anyone graduating with a degree in political organization? I haven't either. But it was that allowed me to have a much happier experience in school. As a healthy level student, that pushed me to start my own company after I graduated and work contracts rather than the normal 9-to-5s that most of my peers do. And now a year later, I've been able to travel the country and learn from people at the top of their industries. And without the healthy level of stupid, I don't think I would have been able to do that. Hell, in 2021, I actually moved to New York City for half a year, off a whim. And if I would have thought about it for a bit longer, I probably would have talked myself out of it. My friend Malia knows. But that's what brought me here today. To this point, talk about organizing and the collective power of young people is a series of decisions that were motivated and pushed through that healthy level of stupid. So keeping those three components in mind, the question is, where do we go from here? And I appreciate the MAX program and the committee for having that at the center of today's conference. See, actually, about a year ago on MLK Day, I had a speech and I spoke about how did we get here? How did we have a year where our country's capital was raided and our country's president got banned from Twitter? All within a span of a year. But the question of where do we go from here is a much better one. How do we take the energy that's in this room today, that's in the workshops that you guys are going through, how do we take that and utilize it to create something powerful, something new, something that empowers you all and gives you all agency in your lives, in your community? And something about organizers is we love a call to action, right? I don't know if you guys know any organizers, but we do. So I'd be remiss if I didn't leave you all today with at least one call to action. And it's a simple one. Ask questions. Be intentional in asking questions. See, I ask questions a lot. Whether I'm watching TV, or writing, or even attending an event. You know, why is this that way? Or what does this stand for? What's the purpose of this activity? So I challenge you to ask 5 questions a day. And I guarantee you, if you're intentional about that, you'll learn more and more intentionally. See, the school systems that we're brought up in don't empower us to ask questions about what we're passionate about what we're curious about. So if you do that more often and you're intentional about researching the answers when your teachers might not know them, or your classmates might not know them, if you're intentional about the writing and reflection of finding those answers, then you'll find yourself reclaiming more and more power, building your knowledge. And once you find those answers and get that knowledge, make sure you share them to the people next to you. Build that community with one another. Because then that's when you'll truly find the power, the collective power of young people, of youth. So I know I'm holding y'all from lunch, and I don't want to hold y'all too long, but I do want you guys to learn today. I want you guys to be intentional. I want y'all to build community with one another. Now, most of all, I want y'all to learn to utilize the healthy levels. So, thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you for all.